Hi and welcome to my new video. There's been a huge protest happening in Georgia, and here's why. Georgia is getting Russian influenced. The same law that we have in Russia is already accepted in Georgia, and Georgian people hate it and go to the protest to fight for their rights for freedom. So this law is called Transparency of Foreign Influence. Does it remind you of anything? It's passed in the Parliament of Georgia on May 14th, and it costs everyday protest near the Georgian parliament. The law is inspired by Moscow, by Russia, by Russian parliament. So good, right? Actually, recently Georgia became a candidate, just a candidate, to be in the European Union. And that's been a really happy moment for Georgians, but not anymore. Because this law is not for European Union, it's for Russia. This law is against democracy, this law is against human rights, it's against freedom of speech, and it will affect Georgia in a negative way, and that's really sad. On the May 21st, Council of Europe's Venice Commission strongly recommends repealing the law of Georgia on transparency of foreign influence, as its fundamental flaws will involve significant consequences for freedom of association and expression and the right to privacy, all of those good things, the right to participate in public affairs. So the Venice Commission disagrees with this law, obviously, and you know what? It didn't stop anyone. And the Venice Commission regrets that Georgian Parliament did not wait for its opinion before adopting the law. As I've already said, Georgia wants, or I guess wanted, to become a part of a European Union. So in order to do that, they have to have European standards. But this law is not compatible with international and European standards that Georgia wanted so bad. And in the European Convention on Human Rights, obviously, it's also does not meet the requirements to be in European Union and basically have like civil, political rights. So no democracy, no human rights. Sounds like Russia, right? And the law also uses the language of transparency. Like, we want you to be transparent with us, but actually it adds more restrictions and organizations will close out. So the law, under the alleged aim of transparency, has the objective effect of risking the stigmatizing, silencing, and eventually elimination of associations and media which receive even a low part of their funds from the West, from abroad. And it's a strong risk. So it would affect those associations and media who are critical to government, and basically charity organizations are also at risk. I will read you a description of this law. The Georgian law on transparency of foreign influence requires any entity of which more than 20% of funds come from abroad to register as an organization carrying out the interest of a foreign power. Yay. And to submit it to the administrative control by the state. So, anyone who gets more than 20% of funds from outside of Georgia, from any country, is at risk. But here is my favorite part. The law's Russian inspiration makes no doubt for the president of Georgia, and the president vetoes the law. So the president of Georgia was actually a democratically chosen president. Like, people actually wanted her to be a president. And people at the protest are also against the law. So that's what people want, because people chose this president by the rules of democracy, something I haven't seen before. They don't want it. Basically, they don't want it. They don't want this law to happen. But unfortunately, the Parliament of Georgia still can vote for the law, and the law would be accepted. Even though the president literally said, no, I don't want it, they will still accept it. So according to opinion polls, more than 80% of Georgians want to see their country in the European Union. And this law, it's not giving European Union, it's giving Russian Z. So there is like an ideological battle. So at this point, this fight is not only no to the Russian law, it's also no to Russian influence whatsoever, and obviously yes to European Union. And that has been a slogan to the protests. I'm very proud that Georgians are fighting against this law, they're fighting for their rights, they want to be Europe, and they want to live in a free country. And they're not afraid to go to the protest. That's actually so great that they have that. And I'm so happy that in Georgia people are fighting for their rights. So again, the president of Georgia calls this law unacceptable and wants it to be abolished. However, the ruling party, Georgian Dream, it's more like a Georgian nightmare, but still it has a majority sufficient to override even the president's veto. And of course they say that it's all harmful, foreign influence of the West. And yeah, we have to cut it off. The proposed law sets off mass protest. I haven't seen such a huge protest before. And again, I'm very proud that Georgian people are going to this protest. And I've heard news like schools shut down because nobody came to school, like everybody at the protest. Like universities also shut down because like everyone is at the protest. And that's so impressive to me that Georgian people are voting against this law, like actively going to the protest every day. It's just amazing. So yeah, the law was accepted, obviously. Obviously, it was accepted by the parliament because they also got this Russian influence. And there's already been a case. As we say in Russia, no body, no case. Here, it wasn't a body, but there was a case. And because of the law on foreign agents, Fair Trees Fund, it is a charity organization that is doing free dentistry for kids. It has a free dentistry clinic for children. It is a non-governmental organization, and yes, they do have 20% of that foreign influence. Oh my God. And they decided to shut down. They decided to close their charity organization. And that's only one case. That's only like very first days of accepting this law. So this law of transparency, of foreign influence, I said it like a million times already, but it had a negative impact on the clinics. So they decided that they don't want to work in such circumstances. Basically, they were forced to stop operating. And also they said that they hope that Georgia will soon go back to their democracy, human rights, and everything that has been building up here before this law, and they will start operating again. I don't think there would be major sanctions, but the USA introduced visa restrictions against Georgian officials. Very happy about it. Due to foreign influence law, obviously. So the ban will affect those who passed the bill, the ones who participated in the violence against protesters, and also cooperation between the US and Georgia will be reviewed. I don't know what that means, but I guess nothing good. Talking about the numbers, how many voted for this law? So to override the veto of a president, they needed 76 of the 150 votes of parliament, and they got 84. deputies who supported the adoption of the law. So there were multiple rounds of voting, and at the final round of voting for this law, there was a gigantic protest, and there was a broadcast on the big screen of those deputies' final meeting for this law. So yeah, this law was approved, unfortunately, and the deputies overcame the veto of the president. So now we have a full list of requirements. Non-governmental organizations, media broadcasting organizations, legal entities owning a printed information publication, legal entities owning or using online media, or any other non-profit organizations registered in Georgia that receive more than 20% of annual income from abroad are required to register and comply with the requirements and through checks of the Ministry of Justice. After registration, all of the above are required to submit an application within 10 days to obtain the status of an organization representing the interest of a foreign power. Like Charity Dental Clinic, it has foreign power on kids. And complete an annual financial return must be submitted electronically in January each year. The declaration must contain the detailed information about financial activities for the previous year, including all sources of income and expenses. I also wanted to add about the president. At the time when everyone was at the center of the Tbilisi on a protest before accepting this law, the president came out on the screen and said that despite the fact that today the ruling government has committed a departure from the country's constitution, gathered demonstrators will be able to return pride and honor to this country. She also said about upcoming elections. There are elections in October this year. So I think there would be an update in October. News from Georgia in a nutshell. Basically, Georgia turns Z. Georgia gets Russian influence. Georgia has this new old law adopted from Russia that is very bad. And meaning that the Parliament of Georgia has accepted this law, even though the president literally put veto on it. They can accept anything at this point. And there are new laws coming in, and I think they will try to do this quickly before the elections. At this point, they can do anything. They can accept any laws that they want, because there's a majority of people in the parliament who are like Russian influenced. In the future, they might accept something that would affect me as well. Right now, it doesn't, because it only is for like media organizations, charity, all this type of stuff. Like I don't qualify as that. But it means the bad for the country where I live at this point. Do I have a right to talk about it? I don't know. I am obviously disagreeing with this law because I've lived in Russia. I've seen shit. Like I've seen how bad it is. I really don't want it to happen to Georgia because I like this country a lot. Let me know, what do you think about this law? What do you think will be happening to Georgia? I just told the news with my pig, and that's actually not a Georgian flag, that's a bag from the pharmacy. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your donations. Bye. See you in the next one.